Welcome to the Franchising Matters video series brought to you by Reshift Media. My name is Steve Bures and I'll be your host. Today we're talking about trends that we're seeing for franchise development over the past couple of years and what we expect to see going forward for the rest of 2024. Just before we get into the data, a quick word on who Reshift Media is. We're a digital marketing organization that specializes in franchise organizations. We have specialty in social media, software development, search, and website and app development. Now, without further ado, let's start to talk about what we're seeing from a franchise development perspective. So the first thing we want to look at is what's the volume of people who are looking for a franchise. So the chart you see here is a combination of a number of terms that we here at Reshift track that people are searching online. These are terms like best franchise to own a franchise, franchise opportunities, restaurant franchise, and a bunch of others. The reason we're doing that is it's kind of like tracking the stock market. If you think of the Dow Jones and how it tracks how the stock market generally moves, it's basically an index that gives you an indication of whether interest is going up or down. That's essentially what we're doing here. So what we're doing is we're tracking how much people are searching for franchise-related terms, which then gives us an idea of how interested people are in buying a franchise. So this graph goes back to the start of 2022. And what you can see is through the year in 2022, we saw a real decrease in the number of people looking for a franchise. Then through 2023, it leveled out. With the volume kind of leveling off, we stopped seeing that decline. And now that we're in 2024, and you can see this chart goes right up to May of 2024, we're seeing a big increase. So the question, of course, is why? What's going on and what's driving this? There are many factors that go into someone making a decision to buy a franchise. This isn't like buying a hamburger or something inexpensive. These people are making a life decision. They're deciding to invest usually a substantial amount of money and change their whole lifestyle to become their own boss. So it's not a decision that's taken lightly. And there are many factors that come into play. Now, we do find that there is a correlation between people being interested in a franchise and interest rates. That's not to say that interest rates specifically drive people's interest, but interest rates themselves are a good indicator of how the economy itself is doing. And obviously, a lot of people who are buying a franchise often have to take on debt. So as the interest rate goes up, that certainly is one of the factors that encourages people to perhaps wait and see. And if we map this particular chart against every time the Fed raised interest rates, what you can see here is a pretty clear picture. As we all know, the Fed was looking to stem inflation through 2022, and we had quite a number of interest rate increases. And if you look closely, there's a strong correlation between an interest rate increase, which is this dotted line here, and a decrease in interest over time. Not every time, obviously, and there's general fluctuations that happen within the industry itself. But as a general statement, over an extended period of interest rates being increased, we saw a decrease in interest. Now, you notice that there's a bit of a peak here, obviously. So there are typically two main times of year where people are looking for a franchise. The first quarter is by far the most popular. So I don't know if it's because it's the start of the year and people are starting fresh, or if it's a New Year's resolution sort of thing. But year after year, we always see the same trend. January, February, and March are excellent months if you're looking to sell a franchise. There's large search volume and a propensity for people to convert in the first quarter, and even a little bit into April is very high. So let's look at that first quarter and what we saw year over year. So back here, we had what was a reasonable year from a search volume perspective for franchise development. If we went back a few more years on this, you wouldn't be particularly surprised at the ups and the downs. This January 2022 through kind of April was pretty typical. You compare that same time period now in 2023, there was a 10% decrease. So although there was a nice spike in Q1, which is very typical, this period was 10% lower than the period before. If you look at the second important period of the year, which is kind of the tail end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth. This is September, October, November. That is another key period where we tend to see high volume of people interested in the franchise. Again, it's the end of the summer. kids are back at school, it tends to be a main inflection point. It's very normal for search volume and general interest to decline throughout the summer. And then in September, October, November, we see it come back quite substantially. So what's interesting is this period in 2022, so that's sort of Q3, Q4 period, we saw declines throughout the year here until we hit this last interest rate increase. And you can see it started to climb back out here. And we actually saw a 10% increase if you look at this time period, September, October, November in 2023, compared to the same period in 2022. So what we saw was once the interest rates weren't climbing the same way, there was a natural rebound to people searching for a franchise. Now let's take a look at what we saw in Q1 of this year. It's actually up 12% over the previous year. So we're actually just slightly over where we were in 2022. So what's happened now is 2022 was a real decrease year. Those of you in franchise development, I'm sure you would have seen that. And then in 2023, we started to see a rebound in the back half of the year. And now at the start of 2024, we're seeing good numbers, good volumes of people. And I can tell you here at Reshift Media, where we do a lot of franchise development marketing, we have seen this firsthand. Search volume is definitely higher. Level of interest is definitely higher. So that sort of sets the stage for what we've been seeing and what the trends are in the industry based on the data we have available. If we look at some additional data, so now we want to get some context in terms of how people are reacting to advertising and what the propensity for taking action is. So if we know the level of volume, how committed are people to actually taking action? So for this, we're pulling from our database from our Franify product. So we actually have a dashboard specifically for franchise development that we've developed called Franify. So in that database, we have data from hundreds of different franchise systems. So this is a wide variety of systems. This could be low-cost buy-in, like lawn care systems, to multi-million-dollar systems that you have to buy into with bricks and mortar. So it's a good cross-section of different franchise opportunities. This is also a mix of different platforms. So this would have Meta, LinkedIn, Google, and other platforms in here. So the click-through rate and the other data I'm about to show you is a bit of a mashup. It's meant to be directional. I wouldn't worry too much about the specific figures and more about the trend. That's what we're looking at. So what we see here is this chart starts back in January of 2023 and goes through to April of this year. So what we saw in terms of click-through rate was, again, we were a little depressed in 2023. So we saw the incidence that we saw was that not only was the search volume lower, but the propensity for someone to click an ad related to franchise development was lower. So it was kind of a double whammy where not only weren't people as interested, but even the people who were interested weren't necessarily clicking an ad as much. And what we saw was a nice climb since then, and particularly in the first quarter of this year, we saw really high click-through rates, some of the highest we've seen in a couple of years. So what this indicates is that people are very interested. Not only are they searching at higher levels, but they're actually taking action and clicking the ads that they see. Let's compare that now to our conversion rate. So conversion rate is not just someone clicking an ad, but they're actually either filling in a form to contact that franchise for more information, or they're calling a phone number to contact them directly. So the conversion rate, this is a contact, someone actually reaching out to get in touch with the franchise system to get more information. So again, this was a really low result in early 2023. Again, some of the lowest we've seen in a long time, where even when people were searching or interested in franchising, even when they did click, their propensity to take that final step, being to reach out to the franchise system for information, was much, much lower than we've seen historically. Thankfully, what we did see in the back half, again, that important Q3, Q4 bump here in September, October, is we saw the conversion rate increase substantially. It always goes down tail end of November into December, so this is not alarming. People do search and are interested and do click ads and do read information about getting a franchise, but because December is just so busy, people typically don't reach out. And this may be one of the reasons January tends to be so high, is there's probably some pent-up interest that people don't act on in December, and it kind of all goes into January. So really nice to see in January and February in particular, really high conversion rates. So not only were people interested, not only were people clicking, but they were motivated to reach out and contact that franchise system. Really good trend there. Last piece of data we're going to put on here is cost per lead. So this is a factor of how much you're spending on your advertising, obviously how much your ads are getting clicked on, and how much you see people actually reaching out to you to be contacted. So this is a factor of all the data we've looked at so far. Interestingly, through the summer here of 2023, cost per lead was very high. This is a combination of two things. The interest was lower, and the propensity for people to convert during the summer is also lower, as you can see. So our conversion rate's lower in the summer, volume's lower in the summer, so your cost per lead tends to go up. Your pool of people who are actually interested in the franchise gets smaller, therefore the competition's higher, therefore the cost per lead is higher. That's not to say summer is a bad time to advertise for a franchise, because a lot of times people are clicking, and as you can see here, there is interest. They're tending to not convert. And again, it's very probable that's what's happening during the summer is people are doing their research, and that's why we see that spike in September, October, November. People are back at work, they've done their vacation, kids are back at school, they have more time on their hands. So the advertising you're doing in this period is almost certainly paying dividends in this period here. Now, not surprisingly, if people are converting at a higher percentage and your click-through is nice and healthy, your cost per lead during that Q3 goes down quite a bit. So the good news here is all of the metrics are working in your favor. Your cost per lead goes down. Again, a spike up in December because people are in fact looking. So the advertising isn't necessarily wasted, but they're not converting at that point in time. And then again, not surprisingly, really high conversion rates. Your cost per lead comes down in the first quarter. So all of these metrics basically indicate that 2022 and the start of 2023 weren't great times for franchise development. We are seeing that there's a lot of momentum behind it right now. Data is showing that people are interested. I can tell you even we're about in mid-June right now as I'm recording this video. And we are seeing still a lot of interest in the marketplace, a lot of people looking for franchises. So it seems very, very brisk right now. In terms of who is actually responding to franchise advertisements, specifically who is looking at the ads, clicking on the ads, and then completing forms. This could be somewhat skewed based on Reshift Media and Franify's client base. Again, this is all data from our Franify database. But based on the data we have, and again, this is over a large number of franchise systems, all kinds of different franchise systems, different demographics are being targeted by those franchise systems, different platforms are being used. It is overwhelmingly male and typically under 45. So 35 to 44 is by far the most engaged age range, followed by 25 to 34. And overwhelmingly male. Now, that might just be, again, the franchise systems we happen to be doing work with. That also might happen to be who tends to act. Oftentimes, we do find that it is a husband-wife team who are looking to open a franchise together. So it could just be that it happens to be the males that are responding to the ads. But in terms of who we see as engaging with the ads, this is what the data tells us. So what do we at Reshift expect for 2024? Clearly, based on all the trend lines we're seeing, 2024 will be stronger for franchise development than 2023. It already is. Now, again, that's all things being equal. That's without major shock to the economy, big change in interest rates. In fact, in most cases, interest rates are expected to decrease going into the fall period, which actually should be, based on our data, should be a good boost for franchise development. So if anything, we expect September, October, November to be even better than the year before, particularly if there's a decrease in interest rates. What we are seeing, though, is that competition for franchisees is very, very high. So the last couple of years haven't been as strong from a franchise development perspective, More and more franchise systems are advertising, particularly digitally, to try and attract franchisees. So we are definitely seeing an increase in the cost of online advertising around franchise systems. And we are seeing that competition level's up. So even with a higher volume of people being interested and being very active on digital, because of the higher interest and higher levels of advertising from franchise systems, we certainly expect there to be a fair amount of competition. But the positive, if you are in the franchise development space, is you should expect a pretty good 2024. And unless something major changes, we expect Q1 of 2025 to be very, very positive. I really hope you found this video interesting. If you have, please feel free to like and subscribe to get more great content like this. And if you're interested in getting more information going forward, don't be afraid to reach out to us at Reshift Media. That's reshiftmedia.com. And we've been more happy to talk with you about what we're seeing in the marketplace. Have yourselves a great day.